Hello everyone, Dr. Sunil Dand, internal medicine physician. So it is now official then, the FDA has approved the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. All across the American media, this was met with universal praise and acclaim. A whole host of doctors, scientists, other experts were going up and saying what a good thing this was. But as is following a recurrent theme here, it is left to overseas publications, frequently British publications, to scrutinize things properly. And we had an article in the British Medical Journal that I wanted to share with you here. It's an opinion piece, but it is very thought-provoking indeed. The British Medical Journal is a very well-respected journal read all across the world by a number of different professionals, including doctors and scientists. The piece is titled, "Does the FDA think these data justify the first full approval of the COVID-19 vaccine? The FDA should demand adequate controlled studies with long-term follow-up and make data publicly available before granting full approval to COVID-19 vaccines." On July 28, Pfizer posted updated results for their ongoing phase 3 COVID-19 vaccine trial. The preprint came almost a year to the day after the historical trial commenced, and nearly 4 months since the company's announced vaccine efficacy estimates up to 6 months. But you won't find 10-month follow-up data here. While the preprint is new, the results it contains aren't particularly up to date. In fact, the paper is based on the same data cutoff date, 13th of March 2021, as the April 1st press release, and its top-line efficacy result is identical: 91.3% vaccine efficacy against symptomatic COVID-19 through up to 6 months of follow-up. First rule of formulating major public policy is that you use up-to-date data, and that wasn't done here. The elephant named waning immunity. Since late last year, we've heard that Pfizer and Moderna's vaccines are 95% effective with even greater efficacy against severe disease. 100% effective, Moderna said. Whatever one thinks about the 95% effective claims, even the most enthusiastic commentators have acknowledged that measuring vaccine efficacy 2 months after dosing says little about just how long vaccine-induced immunity will last. The concern, of course, was decreased efficacy over time. Waning immunity is a known problem for influenza vaccines, with some studies showing near zero effectiveness after just 3 months, meaning a vaccine taken early may ultimately provide no protection by the time flu season arrives some months later. If vaccine efficacy wanes over time, the crucial question becomes what level of effectiveness will the vaccine provide when a person is actually exposed to the virus? So some basic facts there about the reality of respiratory viruses that mutate, like influenza, and COVID-19 is showing the ability to do the same thing. Rapidly mutate, that's why we're hearing all these stories about new variants. And so the recent reports of Israel's Ministry of Health caught my eye. In early July, they reported that efficacy against infection and symptomatic disease fell to 64%. By late July, it had fallen to 39%, where Delta is the dominant strain. This is very low. For context, the FDA's expectation is of at least 50% efficacy for any approvable vaccine. So did you get that there? From the data, there are concerns that the actual vaccine efficacy may not even reach the FDA standards for usually declaring a vaccine effective. Delta may not be responsible. Enter Pfizer's preprint. As a randomized control trial reporting up to 6 months of follow-up, it is notable that evidence of waning immunity was already visible in the data by the 13th of March. From its peak post-dose 2, the study's authors write, observed efficacy declined from 96% to 90% from 2 months to less than 4 months, then to 84%, from 4 months to the data cutoff, which by my calculation was about 1 month later. But although this additional information was available to Pfizer in April, it was not published until the end of July. And it's hard to imagine how the Delta variant could play a real role here, for 77% of trial participants were from the United States, where Delta was not established until months after data cutoff. Now that is a big point to note as well here. The data we have so far doesn't even apply to the Delta variant, which we're dealing with now. Waning efficacy has the potential to be far more than a minor inconvenience. It can dramatically change the risk-benefit calculus, and whatever its cause, intrinsic properties of the vaccine, the circulation of new variants, some combination of the two, or something else, the bottom line is that vaccines need to be effective. Until new clinical trials demonstrate that boosters increase efficacy above 50% without increasing serious adverse events, it is unclear whether the 2-dose series would even meet the FDA's approval standard at 6 or 9 months. Wow, that's quite a profound thing to say. Then there's a very interesting section here which talks about the difference between blinded and unblinded participants in the trial. Severe disease. With the US awash in news about rising cases of the Delta variant, including among the fully vaccinated, the vaccine's efficacy profile is in question. But some medical commentators are delivering an upbeat message. Former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb, who is on Pfizer's board, said, "Remember, the original premise behind these vaccines were that they would substantially reduce the risk of death and severe disease and hospitalization, and that was the data that came out of the initial clinical trials." A former FDA commissioner who is now on Pfizer's board. No conflicts of interest there, right? So what should the FDA be doing? Approval imminent without data transparency or even an advisory committee meeting. Last December, with limited data, the FDA granted Pfizer's vaccine an emergency use authorization, enabling access to all Americans who wanted one. It sent a clear message that the FDA could both address the enormous demand for vaccines without compromising on the science. A full approval could remain a high bar. But here we are, with FDA reportedly on the verge of granting a marketing license. They have of course now done this, 13 months into the still ongoing 2-year pivotal trial, with no reported data past the 13th of March. Unclear efficacy after 6 months due to unblinding, evidence of waning protection irrespective of the Delta variant, and limited reporting of safety data. Quite big issues there that we should be talking about. It's not helping matters that FDA now says it won't convene its advisory committee to discuss the data ahead of approving Pfizer's vaccine. Prior to the preprint, my view, along with a group of around 30 clinicians, scientists, and patient advocates, was that there were simply too many open questions about all COVID-19 vaccines to support approving any this year. The preprint has unfortunately addressed very few of those open questions and has raised some new ones. Then I'm going to say this last paragraph twice because it is ever so important. I reiterate our call, slow down and get the science right. There is no legitimate reason to hurry to grant a license to a coronavirus vaccine. Slow down and get the science right. There is no legitimate reason to hurry to grant a license to a coronavirus vaccine. That piece in the British Medical Journal was really fascinating and I found it very scientific indeed. And once more, it is a tremendous shame that we have to rely in the United States on overseas publications to have this sort of robust analysis and scrutiny. The United States didn't used to be like this even a couple of years ago. What did you think, Dr. Dan, that when you came to America, that we are a land of open, free, rigorous scientific debate? That's not what our founding fathers had in mind. What on earth is going on here? Something really strange has happened very recently where we are not talking about very obvious things that we should be. The questions that were raised in that British Medical Journal piece were very obvious and questions that every doctor and scientist should be asking. Let's be clear, vaccines are amazing. They have been magnificent for humanity over the last couple of hundred years. But that doesn't mean that we jump on bandwagons, that we don't look at data. Our job as doctors and scientists is to step back, look at things objectively, see what's really going on, away from any dogma or other agendas. We have to get back to that. I do hope that this video isn't taken down, isn't labeled as misinformation or censored as some of my other videos have been. I am somebody that always strives to look at things scientifically. That's what we should have been doing from the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I do hope that eventually the pendulum will swing back. Thanks everyone for listening. Let me know your thoughts down below. Dr. Sunil Dand, MedStroke Lifestyle Medicine. We will speak again very soon.